Isabella, a girl who works at her mother's laundromat, hoping to earn a college degree one day to escape poverty. What Isabella doesn't know yet is by the time she's enrolled in college, she's already 8 weeks pregnant. From Context magazine, Isabella had to cut her academic journey short due to the demands of motherhood. This is why I believe abortions should be more accessible for college students. Now, here is the main problem that we're facing. There are countless young adult college students who are either dropping out of the university or struggling to graduate due to one common reason: unplanned pregnancies. According to the U.S. Education Department, women who have a child while in college are less likely to graduate than those who do not. This is not just a number, a statistic, a label, a value. It is a real issue that affects real people. To put things into perspective, I want to give you a case study. Zoe Murray, who sought an abortion as a sophomore at UCSB. Seeking care meant her studies suffered. She told New York Times that because she was taking too much time out of her schedule to get abortion care off campus, she was forced to drop all of her classes. Many, many students are struggling to receive these services and are left to either keep their unintended pregnancies or experience major barriers to receiving an abortion. Which leads me to my next point. There are a handful of issues that contribute to this, but one of the main issues is college students, just like us, lack accessibility to abortion services on campus. From the National Library of Medicine, college-aged young adults in the U.S. are the most susceptible to unplanned pregnancies, but have the lowest accessibility to reproductive health care. Students need to be supported, to be heard, to be cared for. So why is there a lack of accessibility? Well, there are two main reasons: cost and travel barriers. For one, it is expensive. The average cost for an abortion in Washington state is $711, which is paid with insurance or out of pocket. But another issue arises with that. Even with insurance, students may want to keep that information private, so they're unable to pay with insurance. Some people might not even have medical insurance entirely, or some do, and insurances don't cover that procedure. So now the option is to pay out of pocket, $711 out of pocket. This is often not financially feasible for most college students. To reiterate, stated in a college abortion policy brief done for the state of California, college students have limited financial resources for many reasons: paying the cost of tuition and housing, less work hours due to school and homework obligations. All of these combined, these financial constraints limit students just like us ability to cover the cost of an abortion. UW, you must reflect and protect your students. However, the cost of abortions is not the only barrier for college students. There are also major distance and travel barriers. Most students on campus do not have cars and are left to commute. But it's not that simple. Commuting can be particularly challenging for college campuses that are not very walkable, just like UW, as big as our campus. Or it's challenging in general for out-of-state students who may not be familiar with the area. To put real numbers to this issue, stated in a Washington state legislative document, students seeking pregnancy termination face substantial travel, financial, and logistical barriers. They must travel an average of 16 miles, 73 minutes via public transit to the nearest abortion providing facility. And the average wait time for an abortion appointment is 10 days, and the average cost is $711. 10 days of waiting, 16 miles, 73 minutes, and $711. This is the cost it takes to seek medical help. Washington universities, you need us, but your students need you, and that must change. This is college campuses have an opportunity to make abortions more accessible, not only in price, but in distance as well. So now, after talking about the complexity of this issue at hand, we learned that reproductive rights and academic retention go hand in hand. Accessible abortion pushes for college completion, and without it, this crisis may only deepen. But don't lose hope, because there are solutions, and today I'm here to propose them to you. We need something that preserves access to this necessary medical service. This is why we need HB 1677 to be passed. HB 1677 would require student health centers like Hall Health here at public universities to provide access to medical abortions or provide extensive support for students needing medical abortions. Reproductive health and abortion care are essential services for academic retention, and college universities can play a key role in reducing the cost and travel barriers for students. This is why we need to push for Washington House Bill 1677. So call 800-562-6000 and leave a message for your representatives to support the passing of this bill. Flood their inboxes and make it known that we care about reproductive equity. It takes one person, one voice, one action to make a difference. But together, we can make change. Access to medical abortions on campus is not new either. In fact, Washington, you're late. California, University of Illinois have all already implemented medical abortion services to their college campuses. And this is absolutely feasible for Washington too. Be a part of this change, be a part of this movement, be a part of gender equity. So two other organizations locally that also align themselves with reproductive access in Washington are Huskies for Reproductive Freedom, which is a local RSO, and Pro-Choice Washington. Become a member of Huskies for Reproductive Freedom. Show up to campus events. There's power in numbers. If you can't become a part of this club, be a part of Pro-Choice Washington. They're a local organization that pushes for the rights of women and reproductive health. Whether it's legislation, in-person events, donate your time or money to Pro-Choice Washington. Both of these organizations have put their efforts to support House Bill 1677 through educating others, lobbying, or reminding people to message their representatives. So align yourself with these two existing organizations and help preserve the need for this essential medical service. Change starts with you. So lend a loving hand, lift lives, and lead your local communities. But before I leave you today, I want to leave you with this. Students should be trusted to know what's best for their reproductive well-being. Students shouldn't have to beg for support for a university that we pay for. As quoted, "My university wasn't there for me when I needed it. All I faced was silence and stigma," from Zoe Murray from UCSB. If Washington Health Center's roles are to minimize negative health concerns, then stand by our students. Stand by our students, make abortion access, bring them to Washington campuses, and push for House Bill 1677. So students, teachers, members of the community, we cannot settle, we cannot give up, we cannot fail our women. Thank you.
The military trains with a method called walk, jog, run. It's a way to ensure soldiers master each step before moving on to the next, making them perform at their best. But when transitioning out of combat or the military, they often get overwhelmed from the transition from fast-paced environment to a slower civilian life. As a result of running instead of walking into civilian life, many veterans struggle with mental health. This is seen in the U.S. military, which faces a significant mental health problem among veterans across all branches, with a staggering 38% of veterans having a medical condition or mental health condition on their medical record. Some of the most common issues are PTSD, anxiety, and depression stemming from their combat deployment or military service. Without awareness of these available resources, veterans may turn to substance abuse, addiction, or in worst cases, suicide as a means of coping. This is prevalent every day with soldiers, with 22 veterans losing their lives to suicide daily. That's 154 a week, 616 a month. 7,392 veterans we're losing to this mental battle. Since 9/11, there have been more than 120,000 veterans suicides compared to the 7,200 U.S. soldier deaths in combat operations. Veterans deserve peace after fighting for our country, but instead, the battle follows them home, and too often it wins. One of the biggest causes for the mental health crisis is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. This disorder can develop after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. While in combat or a fast-paced environment, many veterans push back these memories to the back of their minds and focus on the mission on hand. But once back into a calm and slow-paced environment, it's easy for the trauma to creep up and take over, creating intrusive thoughts and nightmares and depression and anxiety and avoidance. Stressors like sights, smells, and sounds can trigger the amygdala, activating the fight or flight response, making veterans feel as if they're reliving their traumatic experience all over again. There are many mental health resources for veterans, from well-known organizations such as the National Alliance on Mental Illness or the Department of Veteran Affairs, to smaller organizations such as the Mission 22 or the Wounded Warrior Project. Yet despite all these abundance of resources, many veterans remain unaware to these, which is largely fueled by the stigma surrounding veterans' mental health. Research shows about 60% of military personnel who experience mental health problems do not seek help. From the moment they step into service, soldiers are trained to be this unbreakable force who stays focused on the mission and not emotions. So when they start struggling from these invisible wounds, they internalize it. Soldiers want to be strong. Soldiers want to be a wall no one can push through. Soldiers want to be a leader people can count on. Soldiers don't want to be someone who has to rely on others for help. While veterans are hesitant to ask for help due to how they're conditioned, some resources offer veterans trauma support. Headstrong Project is just the solution to the crisis. It's a nonprofit mental health organization providing confidential, barrier-free, and stigma-free PTSD treatment. To create an obstacle and stigma-free environment, they offer 30 cost-free sessions, allowing veterans and their families to explore therapy at their own pace. This commitment to accessible care is reinforced by their clinical operations team, which focuses on various trauma-focused therapies to ensure the best care. All therapists hired have military cultural competence and are trained in therapies proven to reduce PTSD and depressive symptoms. By tailoring treatments to each client, the Headstrong Project has achieved a 4.4 out of 5 client satisfaction rating, with most clients reporting that their treatment was effective and improved their lives. In addition to their high-quality care, the Headstrong Project provides barrier-free and confidential-free care by ensuring veterans don't need to report to the VA or military chains of command. By creating a safe environment for veterans and their families, 4.7 out of 5 clients believe that they chose the right service provider. 39,092 clients have found support through the Headstrong Project, a confidential care service, an obstacle-free service, a stigma-free service. With your help, Headstrong Project can keep helping veterans and their families with trauma-based mental health care. Now, there are a few small actions you can do to help the Headstrong Project. You can spread awareness to the Headstrong's mission by following following and sharing their content and on social media at the Headstrong Project. You can talk about the Headstrong Project to local veteran organizations or community groups. Spreading awareness of a life-changing resource can help veterans access the care they need. If you're able, consider donating to their website, theheadstrongproject.org. A small amount will help more than you think. Your support helps fund therapy sessions, mental health problems, and life-changing treatments for veterans and their families. Every dollar directly contributes to breaking down barriers to mental health care. And lastly, an independent way to get involved is volunteering at local veteran programs. Have conversations with veterans and show them that they're supported. Simply listening and conversing with them can make all the difference. Every effort, big or small, helps create a future where no veteran struggles internally. And in turn, that future helps veterans overcome their struggles. Thank you.
All right.
Walking any length, welcoming any body, including any race, and inspiring any age. The New York Roadrunners is an organization where there's a place for anyone and everyone. It is centered around building healthier and stronger communities through the power of movement. What started as a local running club has blossomed into an international source of support for upwards of 427,290 participants. 427,290 lives left inspired, 427,290 people enriched with community and diversity. But what makes the New York Roadrunners organization notable and worthy of praise? Firstly, the New York Roadrunners works to cultivate a community of love, a community of support, a community of acceptance, a community of showing up for one another. Susan Rawls, a member of the New York Roadrunners, is a perfect example of what a community can do to change one's life. Susan grew up inactive and dealt with health issues, including scoliosis. At age 50, she found herself depressed and at an unhealthy weight level. Desperate for a support system and a more active lifestyle, Susan stumbled across the New York Roadrunners Striders Club. She began the routine of walking weekly through Central Park with other New York Roadrunners Strider participants. Being previously sedentary, Susan had really difficult days. Days of wanting to quit, days of not feeling good, days where she was just tired. But what New York Roadrunners gave her was just what she needed to get through those tough days. Through New York Roadrunners, she gained a whole cheerleading squad. People who told her to never give up, people who wanted her to succeed, people who cared for her, and people who believed in her. Because of New York Roadrunners, Susan gained a sense of purpose. She gained friends who gave her healthy advice. She gained a positive and energetic mindset. Now, 9 years later, and 128 pounds lighter, Susan is stronger and healthier than she's ever been. Susan and thousands of other participants just like her crave the community cultivated by the New York Roadrunners. Sometimes all you need is the right community around you to be healthy and strong. I know that I do. You need the people to walk with you on your journey, walking right alongside you, running at your same pace, striding together towards your goals. New York Roadrunners instills the value of community into its participants, transforming an individual journey into a larger and more meaningful one. Running for oneself, running for a cause, running for someone who is unable to run, running for each other, and most importantly, running together. There is truly a community built into New York Roadrunners for anyone and for everyone. Secondly, New York Roadrunners dedicates large amounts of energy into prioritizing diversity. Built into New York Roadrunners is countless programs and resources, making the magic of movement available to anyone who wishes to utilize it. New York Roadrunners focuses on diversity of all cultural identities, allowing access for every size, race, sex, gender, ability level, religious background, and any other aspect of identity. New York Roadrunners includes programs such as wheelchair accessibility programs, youth initiatives, and free running programs for those who need financial assistance. By including these programs, the membership of New York Roadrunners is both diverse and robust. New York Roadrunners puts together events specifically to be inclusive of all people's identities and intersectionalities. In 2024, New York Roadrunners hosted an LGBTQ Pride Run with over 8,000 runners. This brought awareness to the efforts of equity and inclusion all throughout the city of New York and acted as a fundraising group for this group of people. By focusing on diversity and inclusion, the New York Roadrunners acts as a safe space for all people. Lastly, the New York Roadrunners serves to inspire. New York Roadrunners creates a community of inspirational role models for one another. Watching other members push themselves can make one empowered to do the same. Elise Hernandez, at age 9, ran 1 mile alongside her dad in the 2013 New York City Marathon. In 2024, 9 years after her first experience with New York Roadrunners, Elise had a full circle moment when she ran her first New York City Marathon. Elise was inspired at a young age by New York Roadrunners to run. And through years of being involved in New York Roadrunners, the community kept her inspiration alive and propelled her towards the achievement of running an impressive 26.2 miles. Inspiration is palpable through the New York Roadrunners. There are thousands of participants who are inspiring one another, each with their own story, their own challenges, and their own strengths. Pushing and pushing and pushing one another to be the best versions of themselves, to go far, to expand their minds and their bodies. New York Roadrunners embodies just what we need in this world today. It brings community and a sense of involvement to individuals. It serves to inspire and empower its members and participants, and it advocates for diversity and inclusion by making an effort to be an equitable organization. To see how New York Roadrunners, through movement, has made an impact is nothing short of astonishing. New York Roadrunners creates a community, celebrates diversity, and acts as an inspiration for many. Walking hand in hand, striding closer to goals, and running towards a brighter future, New York Roadrunners is an extraordinary organization that enriches the lives of many. Thank you.
We gather at a pivotal moment where the ground beneath our feet, the food on our tables, and the future we share all converge into one piece of legislation, the Farm Food and National Security Act of 2024, also known as House Bill 8467. This isn't just another policy wrapped in paper and filed in Washington. It's a declaration that America's strength begins with its soil. Its security begins with its sustenance. House Bill 8467 represents a critical investment in the backbone of our nation, the farmer, the field, and the food supply. It addresses hunger, disaster resilience, climate-smart agriculture, farm safety nets, and food assistance. It's not just about agriculture. It's about national integrity, public health, and economic security. We need this bill. We need it not tomorrow, but today. Not eventually, but urgently. Why? Because according to the USDA, over 44 million Americans, including 1 in 5 children, live in food-insecure households. According to the Economic Research Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, rural America loses nearly 11 farms per day, pushed out by debt, disaster, and dwindling support. According to the USDA, climate extremes have cost U.S. farmers over $21 billion in losses alone in 2023, and that number rises each and every year. According to the Economic Research Service, more than 42 million people rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or as you probably know it, SNAP, which this bill strengthens by adjusting benefits to match the rising cost of food. This bill does not just offer empty gestures, it delivers real solutions. It increases funding for conservation programs by $20 billion, empowering farmers to adopt climate-resilient practices that reduce emissions and preserve biodiversity. It invests in crop insurance reform, to help small and mid-sized producers bounce back from natural disasters. It expands access to SNAP and school meals, ensuring no child sits in a classroom hungry, no senior chooses between food and medication. It supports Black, Indigenous, and underserved farmers who remain underrepresented and underfunded by increasing access to USDA programs and loans. It strengthens our local food infrastructure, shortening supply chains, stabilizing prices, and increasing resilience during crisis. This isn't charity, this is strategy, realpolitik, if you will. It's food diplomacy at home, and it's been long overdue. But why should you or I care? I care because I was that farmer. I care because some of my closest friends were that farmer. That farmer isn't just a political statistic, it's another person with a human face and livelihood. I didn't deal with pigs and chickens for fun, as much as I appreciate Camden bringing them up. Chickens are awesome, but they're backbreaking work. My friends didn't pick apples in the blistering hot heat of Prosser, Washington for nothing. People's livelihoods are at stake, not just the consumer who needs to put food on the table, but the farmer too, who sells himself out to mega corporations, selling his labor at a loss for the sake of maybe, just maybe, barely staying afloat. We must remember, we do not defend freedom by letting our farmers go bankrupt. We do not protect liberty by letting our children go hungry. We do not grow prosperity by shrinking support. We cannot have national security without food security. We cannot ensure peace abroad if we neglect hunger at home. We must not feed markets and starve people. We must not cut corners and call it cost saving. We must not delay decisions and call it democracy. Here's the truth. If we fail to protect those who feed us, we will soon find ourselves with nothing left to eat but our pride. If we serve only profits and not people, we'll grow the economy but shrink our values. If we fund weapons but not wheat, we'll secure borders but not dinner tables. If we fight hunger abroad but ignore it at home, we'll gain allies but lose the very soul of America. So I ask you now, call your representative. Tell them vote yes on House Bill H467. Vote for food. Vote for farmers. Vote for the future. Vote for leaders who treat food security as national security. Ask them, do you protect those who protect our harvest? Write your local paper, post online, speak at your local school board, join a town hall. The silence of citizens is perhaps the loudest sound a democracy can make. This is not a bill, this is a lifeline. This is not just politics, this is survival. This is not about left or right, it's about right and wrong. Secure the soil, secure the farmer, secure the future. Support House Bill H467 and act before the harvest fades. Thank you.
Girl runs home after school, excited to grab a snack and refuel, but finds nothing in the kitchen or the cupboards, and so she's left hungry. Hunger, a feeling we all think we've experienced. When you haven't had food for a short period of time, and you begin to feel tired, sluggish, and for some of us, angry. For most of us, we're fortunate enough to be able to remedy this problem by walking into the kitchen and grabbing a snack. However, for 900,000 people in Washington, 47.4 million people in the United States, and 2.4 billion people in the world, 2.4 billion, the fix is not as easy. These individuals experience a hunger that is debilitating, a hunger that consumes them, a hunger that at times can only be relieved through sleep, never knowing when the next meal might come. Hunger impacts people all over the world, in all time zones, and in all geographic locations. But hunger doesn't have to be the end. Thanks to programs like the Hunger Intervention Program, we look to actively combat the climbing rates of food insecurity, to serve the underserved populations in the North King County area, and who work to ensure that young girl never has to go hungry again. Since 1998, the Hunger Intervention Program has served our schools through healthy kit packs, providing kids with food over the weekends, our community through free summer meals, providing access to food during the summertime, and our elders through senior community meals. Today, we commemorate the incredible impact the Hunger Intervention Program has had on the North King County area, providing people with a sense of community, teaching empowerment, and instilling the independence it takes to thrive. Independence is one of the main qualities the Hunger Intervention Program teaches. In the weekend bags provided, there often was little recipes you can make through the food provided. I remember one time the weekly recipes was peanut butter cookies, and me and my siblings were determined to make them. So we gathered up the ingredients, shaped the most incredible dough balls that would give even Gordon Ramsay a run for his money, and popped them into the oven. 45 minutes later, the most incredible, most aromatic, the most crispy peanut butter cookies came out, charred to absolute perfection and burnt. While my charcoal-kissed cookies were inedible, what I learned from them was very tangible. The Hunger Intervention Program had not only provided the ingredients and a recipe, they were teaching a kid like me the independence I would need to take care of my own food, the independence I would need to feed myself, and the independence I would need to survive. This knowledge instilled in me has served me to this day, where I find myself a college student who, without the independence provided, might find myself without the independence I gained from the Hunger Intervention Program, definitely would find myself desperate trying to provide myself with the pressing odds of being able to do so. Independence is an incredible skill to have, and one that can be truly realized with the support of an inclusive community. Fueled by the efforts of more than 200 community members, contributing over 10,000 hours to the program, setting up hotspots like free summer meals, healthy hit packs, and senior community meals. These volunteers are recruited from your neighborhoods, your churches, your schools, and even your businesses to support those experiencing food insecurity. Through the Hunger Intervention Program, the independence to carry you through life is earned. However, as Rita Nosuke Akutagawa once said, alone we are small, nothing but a drop. But together we are an ocean. By working together as a community, we become empowered. Empowered to work together, empowered to change our present circumstances, and empowered to fight the climbing rates of food insecurity. Empowerment. Through the buildup of confidence, an individual gains the independence of food knowledge that carries them through life. This confidence is able to radiate to fellow community members, creating a space of shared and educated minds. The fortifying of our communities aids in supporting a greater number of people. The Hunger Intervention Program strives to provide an education that will best lead to individual and collective success, teaching us to help ourselves and endowing us with the education we can then provide to fellow community members. Through this cycle, I become empowered, you become empowered, we all become empowered. In just the last year, 78,000 meals were served through the Hunger Intervention Program, 39,000 pounds of food donated, and 13,000 volunteer hours were contributed. The Hunger Intervention Program exists so that little girl who ran home hoping to find food and going hungry doesn't have to experience that hunger again, so that she can have the food that she needs to grow, gain the knowledge to be independent and support herself, and so that she can be empowered to do so, all while having a community to support them. To offer community, to teach independence, and to foster empowerment, all while eradicating world hunger. This is what the Hunger Intervention Program does.
Imagine a living room in rural America, the dusty sunlight filtering through the window, and a secondhand TV humming quietly. On the screen is a fluffy red puppet teaching a 5-year-old the alphabet and the power of imagination. That moment is brought to you by PBS. But that moment is currently in danger. In May of 2025, the Trump administration signed an executive order slashing federal funding to PBS and NPR, calling them biased media. But cutting off PBS and NPR doesn't just silence programming, it silences possibility. And this is not just a policy change. This is a cultural cut. A cut to our children's education, a cut to rural access, and a cut to who gets to tell America's stories. To many, like myself, PBS has been and continues to be more than just television. It's a lifeline. It provides educational programming to children who may not have access to preschool, local news,
to regions where commercial media may have disappeared, and diverse voices telling the stories that matter, not because they are profitable, but because they are important. Now, because of this executive order, over 1,400 public radio and TV stations face uncertain futures. And when these go dark, entire communities lose their only window to education, arts, and unbiased information. But it is rural America that will be hit the hardest. In areas where broadband is unreliable and where cable is too expensive, PBS and NPR are the only sources of trusted news and quality children's programming. And in losing these programs, families in these areas will be missing vital connections to the outside world. So let me say this very plainly. PBS does not fail the public. Currently, the public is failing PBS. And you may be wondering, why exactly is this happening? And as I've said, the administration calls PBS and NPR biased. But, and pardon my French, let's be fucking real, that's a distraction. PBS tells the truth, PBS educates and it investigates, and in doing so, PBS holds power accountable. And when you hold certain powers accountable, those powers, they push back. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about dollars and cents, because you may be wondering exactly how much are we spending on PBS and NPR. As American taxpayers, you're roughly spending $2 a year for public broadcasting. That's the price of a cheap coffee or a cheap vending machine snack from Odegaard. For $2, you're getting Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, Frontline, Nova, and PBS NewsHour. And in this scenario, we are not talking about wasteful spending. This defunding is a targeted attack on knowledge. And as many of you may know, knowledge is power. But certain people in power don't like when they have to share that power with others. But there is good news. We can fight for public broadcasting. Congress can reject this executive order, and they should, because PBS and NPR have received bipartisan support for decades. But even if Congress fails us, and if that funding vanishes, we do not have to vanish with it. We can step in, we can stand up, and we can ensure that PBS and NPR not only survive, but that they thrive through donations, through community actions, and through raising awareness. You may be thinking, how can I raise awareness? What exactly can you do? Well, there's a few things. First, you can contact your representatives. Shoot them an email, give them a call, and tell them, I support public broadcasting. I support PBS and NPR, and tell them that this matters to me. Second, you can go to pbs.org or npr.org or even your local station's website and donate. $1, even $5 can make a difference. Any amount you can spare matters. Third, share your stories. Did Mr. Rogers teach you how to be kind? Or did Sesame Street teach you the ABCs? Then please, I am begging you to share it. Post it. Tell anyone that you can to emphasize how important this is. And to tell people what's truly at stake. And finally, you can watch, support, and engage, because the success of these programs has been brought to you because of people and viewers like you. And remember that when you're tuning into PBS or NPR, you're not just choosing a show or a station, you're choosing a future. Now, we claim to be a nation that believes in liberty, in justice, and in opportunity for all. Not just for the loudest voices, but for the smallest among us. PBS and NPR are the few places where these values still live on. On screen, in our homes, and in our hearts. So please let us not silence it. Let us not turn down the volume on reason, on empathy, and on education, and we cannot trade the public good for political gain. Because when we protect public broadcasting, as I've said, we're not just protecting programming, we are protecting the possibility for the future of our country. Thank you.
What makes the difference between a child who thrives and a child who struggles? Is it wealth? Is it talent? Is it luck? Or is it opportunity? Imagine a child no older than 10 walking home after school. No one is waiting at the door. No one asks about their day. No one reminds them to do their homework. Maybe the fridge is empty. Maybe the streets aren't safe. Maybe no one believes in them. Now picture that same child stepping into a Boys and Girls Club. A mentor greets them by name. A warm meal is waiting. A tutor helps them to understand their math homework. A basketball coach teaches them discipline, teamwork, resilience. In that moment, everything changes. For over 160 years, the Boys and Girls Club of America have been changing lives, shaping futures, and rewriting stories. Today, we commemorate an organization built on 3 pillars: community, opportunity, and growth. But what is the Boys and Girls Club? It started with a simple idea. In 1860, 3 women in Hartford, Connecticut saw a problem. Too many boys roaming the streets, getting into trouble with nowhere safe to go. So they built a place just for them. What started as 1 club became 10, then 100, then 1,000. Today, there are over 4,000 Boys and Girls Clubs nationwide, serving 3.6 million kids each year. But let's talk about what that really means. That's 3.6 million children with a safe place to go. 3.6 million children getting tutoring, mentorship, and leadership training. 3.6 million children playing sports, making friends, discovering their potential. For many of these kids, the club is more than an after-school program. It's their second home. And the impact? Undeniable. Kids who attended Boys and Girls Clubs are 40% more likely to graduate high school. They are 67% less likely to engage in juvenile crime. They are 80% more likely to say they feel safe compared to their peers who don't have access to a program like this. Numbers don't lie. The Boys and Girls Club works. And one of the biggest reasons for that? Community. But what does it mean to belong? It means walking into a place where people know your name. It means having someone who listens, someone who believes in you, someone who says you matter. For millions of kids, the Boys and Girls Club is the first place where they feel truly seen. Because community is everything. Community is safety. Community is support. Community is family. The club welcomes everyone, rich, poor, shy, outgoing, struggling, succeeding. It doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. Basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal grew up in a tough neighborhood. His father was often absent and trouble was everywhere. But he found home at the Boys and Girls Club. He found coaches who pushed him, mentors who guided him, and teammates who became brothers. He found a future. And he's not alone. Jennifer Lopez, Denzel Washington, Usher, Kerry Washington, all of them found a place of belonging at the Boys and Girls Club. All of them became something greater because someone believed in them. Because community is the foundation of success. Community is the foundation of hope. Community is the foundation of change. But community is just the beginning. Because community opens doors, and doors lead to opportunity. Not all kids start in the same place. Some are born into privilege, some are born into struggle. Some are given a head start, some are left behind. But opportunity is the great equalizer. Opportunity is the bridge. Opportunity is the key. The Boys and Girls Club gives kids the opportunities they need to thrive. It offers tutoring and college prep, ensuring that kids get an education. It offers STEM programs, introducing them to science, technology, engineering, and math. It offers sports and arts, giving them a way to express themselves. It offers workforce training, helping them to prepare for future careers. And the results? Unbelievable. A survey of Boys and Girls Club alumni found that 97% of participants graduated high school compared to the national average of 86%. 88% said the club helped them to develop good character. And 74% said that it helped them set and achieve career goals. These aren't just numbers. They are lives changed, doors opened, and futures rewritten. Dr. Michael Galvez, a pediatric hand surgeon, is living proof of that. He spent every summer from elementary through high school at the Columbia Park Boys and Girls Club in San Francisco. And in that time, he didn't just find a safe place, he found his passion. Dr. Galvez stated in a testimonial for the club, "One moment that stands out was making a metal ring in woodshop. I spent several months learning how to build it, pouring different elements, buffing it, and working on the ring. I was so proud to have made something from scratch from beginning to end. That moment and all the little ones in between working on the ring taught me determination, how to stick with something through completion. Today, I work with my hands to heal children, a passion that started working with my hands in woodshop at the club." Because opportunity transforms lives. Opportunity creates success. Opportunity builds futures. And what happens when kids are given these opportunities? They grow. A child's future isn't determined by where they start. It's determined by what they learn, who they meet, and how they grow. And growth is everything. Growth is learning. Growth is strength. Growth is resilience. At the Boys and Girls Club, kids don't just get help with homework. They learn confidence. They learn leadership. They learn how to dream. A 2022 study found that kids involved in Boys and Girls Clubs are 45% less likely to do drugs and 51% less likely to engage in violence. Because when kids are given the right tools, they don't just grow, they rise. They rise above their circumstances. They rise above expectations. They rise into their full potential. And that's what the Boys and Girls Club is all about. I don't just believe in the Boys and Girls Club because of statistics. I believe in it because I have seen it with my own eyes. Every week, I volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club of Wallingford. I see kids walk in, sometimes tired, sometimes frustrated, sometimes carrying the weight of the world on their small shoulders. And then I see something incredible happen. I see them light up as they make a new friend. I see them smile as they score a basket. I see them laugh as they work on a project together. And when they leave, they are happier than when they came in. They are stronger. They are more confident. That is the power of the Boys and Girls Club. It's more than a program. It's a promise. A promise that every child is seen, every child is valued, and every child has potential. Because every child deserves a place where they feel safe. Every child deserves a chance to succeed. Every child deserves a community that believes in them. And for millions of kids, that place is the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you.
Seattle, there are a few constants to life. The trees are green, it rains 6 months of the year, and the Seattle Public Library has its arms open for you. However, despite the Seattle Public Library having 293,000 total active patrons, which is 39% of all Seattleites, the SPL is facing its own crisis, a funding crisis. The SPL indiscriminately provides resources to Seattle community members, boasting 340,000 public computer sessions, 3,500 programs with more than 103,000 attendees, over 930 referrals to Lifeline services, 1,100 K-12 attendees to after-school homework help, and 580 one-on-one business and legal consults. More recent initiatives focused on equity and social justice have become vital for people like Andrew Constantino, a man living in the Georgetown tiny house homeless village in South Seattle. Constantino is an advocate for homeless people and has helped Seattle plan the development of Georgetown, as well as work with nonprofit groups in Colorado and Idaho as a voice with lived experience in homelessness. Compared against shelters, charities, and other organizations developed to help end the homelessness crisis in Seattle, Constantino claims that the Seattle Public Library is the best resource for homeless Seattleites. Initiatives like Wi-Fi hotspot lending and a community resource specialist work to create a functional, necessary space for all members of the Seattle community. These resources, however, are on the chopping block. one of the causes for the Seattle Public Library not being able to fund these extracurricular activities started just over a month ago. Katie Campbell, KUOW NPR reporter, wrote an article on the massive cuts libraries across Washington are facing. The Trump administration is notifying library systems across the country that grant funding is being terminated despite pending litigation. Washington State librarian Sarah Jones told the KUOW that the cuts could amount to as much as a third of the Washington State Library budget, especially impacting rural and underserved communities. Brian Lawrence, CEO of the SPL Foundation, the library's nonprofit fundraising and advocacy arm, told KUOW the organization got notice that a 3-year grant received in 2022 for a teen mental health program had been terminated. The early termination could mean that the foundation will not be repaid money it was already promised. Not only are Washington State libraries no longer receiving government funding towards programs that save people's lives, they are also on a tightrope underneath a microscope, forced to decide between what their communities need and what will gain approval underneath the Trump administration. Not only are extracurricular SPL activities being dissected to have their fate decided by officials far removed from the communities that need them, but the SPL as a whole is facing budget cuts. For 3 months last year, from April until June, the SPL had scheduled closures for 21 of the 26 branches. The staff of the SPL on their blog reported that due to budget challenges and the hiring freeze mandated by Mayor Harrell, the library had been facing significant staffing shortages. This means those 21 Seattle communities were without the strongest and most easily accessed resource periodically for 3 months. 21 Seattle communities who need these resources might not have the option of going somewhere else, might not have the option of working in another place, might not have the option of educating themselves in any other way. Do those 21 Seattle communities deserve less just because the City of Seattle government decided that the library is the least important part of their budget? In 1941, a group of Seattleites banded together and decided that no, the library is important, is necessary, and is significant to our city and the communities within. This group, the Friends of the Seattle Public Library, has fought and worked for decades to uplift the Seattle Public Library and support its mission of library for all. The Friends are a group created solely to support the SPL's extracurricular activities. They're not just a foundation, but they have embedded themselves into the functions of the SPL by creating the Friend Shop, a shop in the Central Library, run by a team of more than 60 volunteers who have donated more than 3,000 volunteer hours. They sell SPL books that have aged out of circulation, donated books, and volunteer crafted gifts. Last year, the Friends accepted over 37,000 donated books and sold more than 19,000. They've recirculated more than 17,000 books back to community members, including through the Seattle King County Health Center, Books to Prisoners, Ballard Food Bank, the Seattle VA Medical Center, and community-run Little Free Library boxes. The Friends are supporting the Seattle communities at their roots. They take the Libraries for All mission seriously and have created significant impact through it. The Friends also provide a program for children 6 and under getting their first library card. Upon signing up for their first library card at any branch, children receive this child-sized book bag celebrating this milestone. In most years, approximately 5,000 tote bags are distributed. The Friends focus on the longevity of the library, creating lifelong readers at an early age and teaching those readers and their parents about the many resources the library has for them. You have the power to help the Friends mission by shopping at the Central Library and Georgetown locations. By buying a new bookmark, a new magnet, or an old book, you are creating jobs and helping grade school students understand their studies, and help funding a resource for mental health crises, and funding one-on-ones for a new local business. You are changing lives. Visit friendsofspl.org to donate old books and to learn how to communicate with your council members how important the library is to you and to everyone. But regardless, if you don't have time, you don't have money, and you don't have the desire for old books, the best thing that you can do to support the Seattle Public Library is to learn. Don't buy books first, see if the SPL carries them. Look into classes posted by your local SPL branch and actually go to them. Use the online movie collection before clicking over to Netflix. Your taxes are already paying for these libraries. You are paying for these services. Use them. Show the City of Seattle government that libraries are relevant, they are needed, and they are used. Be an ally to people like Andrew Constantino. Because the communities of Seattle rely on the libraries, but the libraries rely on the Seattle community